What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gamescast now, episode 39, topic 2. I'm Alex, and this is our conversational gaming show, a show that airs every other week, Monday and Wednesday at 5 a.m. This upcoming Sunday, we're going to be having also a bonus episode of Gamescast. Now, they get broken up into topics, 2 topics a week. On Monday, we talked about Sly Cooper, kind of the future, should we have a Sly 5, all sorts of things like that. And in this topic, I want to talk about The Last of Us Part 2, and maybe you can tell from the title of this, I want to go into some rumors and some fake news personally that I think, and also just talk about it. I just want to have a nice conversation just about where I'm coming from and try and maybe convince you guys to think a certain way when it comes to Last of Us Part 2. On Sunday, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5, kind of in a very similar vein to how I'm doing this video. So if you get to the end of this video and you don't like the way I handled The Last of Us Part 2, you're not going to like the PlayStation 5 video. If you do, then you will. So, The Last of Us Part 2. What I want to talk about is 2 different things. I want to talk about why The Last of Us Part 2 is not coming out in 2018. It's not going to happen, okay? I want to talk about why people even believe that. I want to go into it. I want to tell you why it doesn't make sense. I want to talk about when I actually, and the second part of this is I want to talk about when I actually think it's coming out and kind of the roadmap we're going to see when it comes to Last of Us Part 2, okay? So let's get into this. I'm not criticizing, I'm not going after people because I don't even know the YouTube channels. I've never watched them. I don't even click them, okay? But I've seen too many things, and even people commenting on my videos. Too many videos saying The Last of Us Part 2 is confirmed for 2018. Firstly, and people have gone on us on these kind of things. Confirmed is a tricky word. Confirmed is very tricky. Be very confident when you say the word confirmed. Be very confident that that's actually what you mean. The Last of Us 2 has never once been confirmed by Naughty Dog, by Sony, by Neil Druckmann, by nobody that it's coming out, by Ashley Johnson, by Troy Baker. It's never been confirmed that it's coming out in 2018. So I don't know where the word confirmed comes from because I don't know where you get that knowledge, but it's never been confirmed. Why would it come out? So I guess here's the thing. It's got to come out in the fall of 2018 if it comes out in 2018, right? Because it's most certainly not coming out before E3. It's not. So it's coming out in the fall. Okay, again, here's why it doesn't make any sense. It's not ready. Naughty Dog is not done. The last we heard it was like 50 to 60% complete. That was the last we heard. And that was like at PlayStation Experience. It's just not ready. Think about the games we already have. This is how you analyze Naughty Dog. This is how you analyze Sony. And this is how you analyze games in general. Look at the games we have already seen and look at the patterns, okay? So far this year, I've been right 3 times. I predicted when God of War was coming out. I predicted when Detroit was coming out. And I predicted when Spider-Man was coming out. And I want to use those last 2 to defend myself and say why I believe I'm right, okay? Detroit Become Human has, for me personally, looked like it's been done for a very long time. Quantic Dream has been making this game for a very long time. We've seen gameplay. We've seen trailers dating back a couple years now. Okay, the last time we saw it at a major convention, last E3, it looked done. It looked like it was getting there. So I knew it was coming out at around this time. And they even said, they said spring 2018. Okay, so you kind of narrow down your choices. I said May. I was right. Okay, now when it comes to Spider-Man, I want to compare Spider-Man to Detroit to get us to Last of Us. Spider-Man did not look complete. To be honest, it still doesn't. To me, it feels like it's still not complete. And there's probably a reason because it's not coming out yet. It's coming out in September. I guarantee you when we get to E3, it's going to feel like the game is done. And that's how it should feel. It feels like it's not as done as Detroit. So when I was thinking about Detroit versus Spider-Man, I found it very hard to believe Spider-Man could come out right after Detroit. Do I think Sony wanted that? Yeah. I think Spider-Man was supposed to come out sooner. I also think Detroit was probably supposed to come out sooner. I feel like definitely there was a silent delay on Spider-Man without anybody knowing. And I think even quieter, there was a very minor delay to Detroit Become Human. I think Detroit was probably supposed to come out in April. And I think Spider-Man was supposed to come out in May. That's what I think was the plan. Then I think that in the fall, it was probably supposed to be Days Gone, and then obviously that got pushed to 2019, which we'll talk about, and that does impact The Last of Us, and I made a video on that too, which did really well. A lot of people had a lot of things to say, which is really good. That's what I think Sony's plan going into it was. But what I love about Sony, what a lot of people love about Sony, is they don't pressure, right? They let developers take their time. They, hands off. They know what they're doing. They make phenomenal games. Let them handle it, okay? So that's what happened. But you could tell Spider-Man wasn't close. And so when Detroit got the release date, I think Detroit got the release date like at least a month and a half ago, right? When Detroit got the release date, I knew Spider-Man is not coming out in the spring. It's not. Because Spider-Man just looks so less... that doesn't mean, by the way, it doesn't mean Spider-Man looks worse than Detroit. It means what we've seen, trailers, gameplay snippets, those kind of interviews, the amount of knowledge we know about the game. Those are all very important. I felt like that was never equal. And so when Detroit got announced that it was May 25th, there was no way in hell that Spider-Man was coming out until the fall. And I thought late August, early September, and that's when it's coming out, right? So I was right. When you think about The Last of Us, think about what we know. Think about what we've seen. We don't know anything. Now, that's just Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog is going to hide things. Naughty Dog is going to lie in terms of story. And that's this is all a good thing. They told us that we would not play as Ellie in the first game. That was a lie. You can't really trust everything a game developer tells you about their game. Because if they told you everything, you would know everything, and then there would be no anticipation. Okay? We don't know much about the story at all. And from what we've seen two things. Two trailers. The Ellie singing one with Joel walking, and then her mom, theory-wise, the lady that's pregnant that they were sacrificing, they were going to sacrifice, right? Those are the two things that we know. Those are the only two trailers we've gotten. That is not even remotely close to being done. We have yet to see the most important part when it comes to showing off your game, and that is gameplay. Now, you could say this, Alex, Fallout 4 was announced in June at E3, and it came out in November the same year. Yeah, I actually called that. Colin Moriarty at the time called that. That was well known and kind of well predicted. People just didn't really want to believe it. Sony is not Bethesda. And so, firstly, Sony is much better than Bethesda. But Sony isn't Bethesda. They don't treat their games the same way. The Last of Us Part 2 means something different to Sony than Fallout meant for Bethesda. Sony, I feel like, is always kind of operating on the thing that they want to show you what they have. They want people to be excited. They don't want to show you too much, but they are also not going to announce a game and then have it come out 3 months later. That's not how they operate. It's just not how it works. And you could argue that Fallout 4 wasn't even that great. I don't think it was that great. I think a lot of people would say it's not that great. That's just my opinion, but that's, they're different situations. I'm just saying you could throw that scenario out at me, which is, you could do that. But when it comes to The Last of Us, we've yet to see gameplay. Here's the thing. We will see gameplay in June. At E3, I think it'll either start Sony's conference or it'll end it, but we will see gameplay for The Last of Us Part 2. That is a significant step. Yes, I agree. Don't forget that we saw gameplay for The Last of Us Part 1, the first one. Don't forget we saw gameplay for Uncharted, and it came out a full year later. Okay, this is what they do. It builds. They're building. So I do think we will see gameplay for The Last of Us Part 2 in June. Does that mean I think it's coming out in November? Absolutely not. How? It's not done. It's half done, and you think it's going to come out within 9 months? It just upsets me when I see videos on YouTube and then people believe it. And it's like, you guys are insane. You guys are literally insane. I hope that any of the people that think about that right now aren't even on this video. I hope they've left because they're mad. That's what I hope. I don't want them. You gotta think logically here. The Last of Us Part 2 is not coming out this year. Sony has this year covered. It's coming out next year. My prediction, I've been literally saying this for almost a year now, it's going to come out June of next year. I think they're going to do the exact same month that they did for The Last of Us 1. It'll be June of 2019. That's what I think. Gives them enough time. We'll be able to see it in E3. We'll be able to see it for PlayStation Experience again. I think they would show it in PlayStation Experience, and it'll look very much complete. Do I think the game is like an alpha? Do I think the game isn't built, like the world isn't built, and they're using stick figures? No, that's not what I mean. But I feel like it's getting there. I feel like they're probably still even doing voice work. Now, they do voice work basically up until the game comes out, but you know what I mean. They're still working on the game heavily, okay? And firstly, why would you want to, and secondly, thirdly, fourth, whatever, why would you want to rush Naughty Dog? Let them do I'll give them 5 years if they want it. Let them do their work with The Last of Us. It's going to come out. It's going to be the best game ever. We know that. There's really nobody's saying that that's not going to happen. But by the way, that's a thing I should maybe have said in the beginning. I'm not a hater. I love Sony. I love The Last of Us Part 1, the first game. It's one of my favorite games literally ever. The franchise is almost unbeatable. So I'm not saying I don't want it to come out. I want it to come out. I want it to come out as soon as possible. But I'm also realistic. I'm not going to convince myself it's coming out in the fall. You think Half-Life's coming out next year? Is that another thing that's going around? Like, come on. You got to be logical when you think about this stuff. The Last of Us Part 2 is not coming out this year. It's going to come out next year. Will it come out maybe in June next year? Maybe not. Maybe it'll come out next fall. I don't know. I feel like it should come out next June. That way they could have the first half of the year be Days Gone. I think Days Gone would probably have to come out in February, March, or April. And then The Last of Us Part 2 would come out in June. Then in the fall, you'd have Ghost of Tsushima, and then maybe Death Stranding, but probably not. But you'd have Ghost of Tsushima. So you'd have stuff. So that's what I think is going to happen. That's what I think their kind of plan is. I think they'd have a good 3 to 4 games, and you'd split them up, have 2 and 2 in these, winter and spring, and then fall, and then, part of winter, the Black Friday kind of thing. That's what I think Sony's going. I don't think it fits here. I don't. We've seen more from Spider-Man than we have from The Last of Us Part 2. We've seen infinitely more from Spider-Man than we have from The Last of Us. And Spider-Man's coming out in September. So when's The Last of Us coming out? In October or November? That has to be it. And that's completely wrong. So that's my opinion. I just want to talk about that. I'm sick of seeing those videos. I'm sick of seeing new something confirmed. I don't want to see it. But they get 30, 40, 50,000 views, so they're fooling some people, which is sad. It's actually really sad, and they should really think about it, and the people watching should really put on their thinking hats every once in a while. So that's what I think. So let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? When is The Last of Us Part 2 coming out? Where do you think they are in their development? Do you think it's coming out this year or next year? Thank you guys so much for watching Gamescast Now, episode 39, topic 2. Also, like I said, go back, check out topic 1. We talk about Sly Cooper. This upcoming Sunday, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5. And again, rumors that definitely don't make sense of the PlayStation 5. But I want to talk about that as its own episode, its own topic on Sunday. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode.